Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing this evening? Like my little post. Turtle prune. I have my hair done tonight. Don't worry, I do have my hat right here. Always ready. Always ready. Oh, had a good night tonight. Hung out with a friend of mine. And Alex went over to his friend from high school's house tonight, and they sat around and just talked and stuff, and he got home kind of early. And then Alex and I spent the whole day together today. We got up, he didn't have anything to do, work stuff today, so we went to brunch, and then we went and got PB's medicine. And then we came back and we hung out on the back porch for like ever, and with the dogs. It was really nice. I was just kind of like scrolling through stuff, and he was too, and we were just kind of talking, and it was just, we had like a nice day. It was beautiful outside today. It was like in the 80s, but it was kind of like there was a cool breeze, and it was just, this guy in front of me just totally ran a red light. I guess he has somewhere to go. Or maybe he thought it had turned green. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, we had a great day today. I'm actually waiting for a call from a friend of mine, so if the call comes, I'll have to stop vlogging for just a little bit. But, oh my God, the most sadliest picture in the entire world, and it says, I looked up because it was like this like sad child that looked like he was super sad, and it looked like one of those pictures, you know, where you like, that I was talking about the other day, where you like donate money and then it said unhappy with your current flooring. I think that might be a little overboard for a billboard. But anyway, so yeah, I've been hungry all evening, and I keep on thinking to myself, why are you hungry? You ate. But I ate at brunch, and we went to brunch early today. So Sarah stopped by the house too. She was with him tonight when they went over to their friend's house, because it was like all their friends from like, well, it's like the three of them were friends in high school. I was gonna go with them, but I was gonna do a live stream, and then I was gonna hang out with a friend later. And so I was like, I'm gonna lay down for a little bit, and then he was going earlier. So I was like, well, I'll just do a live stream, because he wasn't gonna be over there that late anyway. And then I didn't end up doing a live stream, and I got up and took a shower, and it was like, you know what, I want to make my hair look nice tonight. And so anyway, my phone is charging over here, and the phone cord is, oh, I know what else I did today. I did a Taco Bell review of they're called Happier Hour drinks. You guys can go check those out over there if you would so like, on my review channel. And I still have my coffee from brunch today. So this omelet that I get is called the California Dreamer, and it's you can get it made vegan, but I just get the vegetarian version of it, and it's actually one of their vegetarian omelets, and it has like jalapenos in it, and so it's really hot, right? And they bring us bottles of water. It's like they have like, you know, like a glass bottle that's filled with water, and that's like the water for your table. And it's probably like the size of a wine bottle. Do you guys, you know, restaurants that you go to and they have that. So Alex and I go through it real quick, right? Well, I was eating this omelet today, and I noticed that like it had a lot more jalapenos than, am I saying that wrong? It sounds like I'm saying it wrong. I don't know why. I say everything wrong. But it had a lot more jalapenos than it usually did, and it looked like it did. I had a lot of green in it, let's just put it that way. And I said to Alex, I go, this looks like it's gonna be really hot. And he goes, I heard jalapenos are they're in season right now. Is that a thing? I didn't know that they were ever out of season. I'm so stupid. But anyway, so, I mean, I bit into this thing, and I was like, whoa, I need some water. Oh my God, it was so hot. And, so, like, they were bringing us water left and right. There was this couple next to us, this gay couple, and they were, like, older. They were, well, not older, but they were probably, like, between my age and, like, 50. And don't think they said like one word the entire time that they were at brunch. And the one guy just kind of like kept on looking on his phone, and the other guy just kind of stared at him, and like every time the other guy would look up, he would smile. It was kind of sad. And I said to Alex when I left, I said, I hope that we never get to a point. I mean, I'm not saying that Alex and I just like talk the whole time that we're, you know, eating meals, because that's not the case, but we're actually super friendly with like the wait staff. Like, it seems like all of our regular places, we know all the waiters and waitresses there. We talk to them and stuff, but we're telling stories to each other and stuff, you know. What were we talking about today? It was something I had read, I'd seen an article about. Oh, I know what it was. I'll talk about that in a second, because it was kind of a true crime kind of thing. But I said, I really hope we never get to the point where we like run out of stuff to say to each other, you know? You know, even with my ex, like, it was never, like, at the end, it was never ugly. Like, it was never, I think we had just fallen out of love with each other. You know, we weren't in love with each other. We were companions. But we even, like, were, like, great friends, even up to the end, you know, and had, like, we would take car rides and road trips and stuff and just talk the whole time, you know? But the passion was missing. And I think the passion is something that is vital to a marriage, you know? I think you have to have that physical intimacy and that, you know, physical passion on top of that, you know, on top of that, being good friends with each other and being able to talk to each other and all that kind of, I mean, I just think it's vital to a relationship. But even, you know, he and I never ran out of stuff to talk about. And then my first boyfriend and I, we ran out of things to talk about. But that was kind of a different kind of relationship anyway. Like, I mean, I was early in sobriety, and we were both young, and you know, we would travel a lot. Like, that was what we did. We like did a lot with my dad and my stepmom. We traveled a lot, and we just went and did stuff. We were always active, and we had like inside jokes and stuff like that. But it wasn't like we were. I don't know. I look back on that relationship. We had a lot of fun, you know, the first year or two. And we were together like 4.5, 5 years. But after that, we did kind of run out of stuff to say. You know, we did kind of run out of stuff to talk to each other about. And I think we both knew it. And it was kind of sad. But like the first year or two was fun. We had a lot of, he would say probably the same thing. I mean, it wasn't him and it wasn't me. I mean, it wasn't like, you know, either one of us was better equipped to be in the relationship. I just think that I was 23 and a half. He was, what, a year or two younger than me. So if I was 23 and a half, how old would he have been? 22, I think. I don't know. I don't even remember. So it's weird now because, like, you know, I'll see pictures of him and stuff like that, and he's just, like, has not aged at all. Like, it's crazy. I mean, he has, like, I mean, I can see, like, wrinkles around his eyes and stuff like that, but, like, he still looks real young, you know, and he's always been, like, this will surprise people. So my first boyfriend was, like, really into going to the gym, and he's, like, really fit and, like, you know, has that Instagram body that all those guys have, and he actually is with somebody. This is crazy too. His boyfriend now, they've been together for, I don't know, a couple years. His boyfriend now is from Venezuela. Isn't that so funny? I don't know what. I always say that to Alex. I'm like, isn't that so funny that he's with somebody from Venezuela and I'm with somebody? Because Alex knows him too. Alex actually knew him, like, Alex knew him separately before he and I got together. And I was like, isn't that so funny that he, like, is with somebody from Venezuela? And Alex is like, no, I don't think that's funny. I'm like, you don't think that's, like, coincidental? It's strange, you know? He's like, no. I'm like, okay. Anyway. I actually remember, I've talked about this on here before, I remember, like, the moment that I knew, like, it was kind of over between us. We were on a vacation. We were actually on a very nice vacation in Cancun with my dad and my stepmom. And, I mean, we were staying beautiful. We were staying at the Ritz-Carlton in Cancun. And we had this amazing room. That was the trip that I read, She's Come Undone by Wally Lamb. And I remember we were sitting by the beach. And he had either said to me, like, do you want to go for a swim, or do you want to go, like, walk on the beach? And I was like, no, I'm good. And I was reading a book, or I think I was reading a magazine. And I, like, lifted the magazine up. Like, he was, like down in the water, like, in front of me. And I was just, like, sitting there in, like, the chair, and I was, like, watching him. And I don't know why I remember this, you guys. This is so, like, specific and so weird that I remember it. But, like, I lifted the magazine up. Like, I was like, there he is. And then I lifted the magazine up, and then I was like, and now he's gone. And I was like, okay, this is what my life would be like without him. And I was kind of, like, at that point, I was kind of done. I was kind of like, I think we're over. Like, I remember thinking that. It was the weirdest thing. Like, and I don't remember being sad about it. I don't remember being, like, devastated. I just knew, like, I think we're done. And a lot of things were, like, he was real into music, and he was wanting to go to a lot of, like, gay circuit parties, like they have in, like, Palm Springs, like the white parties and stuff. And his brother was gay too. His brother since passed, but he went to a lot of parties with his brother and stuff. Our lives just didn't look similar at all. And, you know, I wanted to travel and have fun, but that wasn't what I wanted to do. And I've always very much been a nester, you know, and, like, wanted to make the home nice. We had a nice apartment and stuff. And, so I remember we broke up, and it was like 2 or 3 weeks later. No, 2 or 3 weeks later. It was like 2 months later. And I was out at this bar in Indianapolis, which was called the Unicorn. It was a lesbian bar, and on Sunday nights, they had, like, a gay guy night. And it was such a fun bar. It's actually where I met my ex. And so anyway, I was out, and I saw him, and maybe it was, I don't know, 3-4 months later, I don't know how long it was, but anyway, he was with his new boyfriend, who was night and day for me, but very much in that scene of going out and all that kind of stuff, you know, what goes along with that, I don't need to say, but, and, like, that just wasn't me, you know, I mean, it just wasn't. I mean, our relationship was about going to movies on a Sunday night at 10 o'clock, you know, when it was snowing outside. We went and saw, like, you know, it's funny because the other night in my live stream, people were like, did you see these movies, like, when they first came out, like Scream and all? So he and I were the ones that, like, I remember seeing Scream, The Faculty, all of those movies. We used to go to see, what was the other one? Urban Legend. We went and saw all those scary movies that were like, I Know What You Did Last Summer. I mean, he and I, all of those movies that came out in that era, like, that's what we did. We went and saw a lot of those scary movies late at night. We also went and saw Titanic and sat on the floor in front of the first aisle because we got there so late, and he had to see it on the night that it opened because he was obsessed with Leonardo DiCaprio. And I was like, are you serious? We're going to go and sit on the... He goes, people were, like, sitting literally in the... I swear it was the weirdest thing, okay? I've never seen a movie like that since. And so we were literally sitting on the, like, in the front, in front of the front seat, like, rows. Or, like, on the side or something. I don't remember, but we were, like... Though we weren't on the side because we were front and center, because when the boat went by, it was like this. I remember my friend and I, the one that I, you know, went all the way through school with. So she and I, when we were in, I don't know when it would have been, probably undergrad, we went and saw the Blair Witch Project. And it was packed. It was absolutely packed. And we went on, like, a Sunday night, I think, of, like, the opening weekend. That movie, okay, I thought it was terrifying when I saw it. Now it just, like, whenever I've seen it, like, on TV or whatever, it just, like, gives me a headache. It's, like, so jittery. I don't know that I even really understand that movie, if you want to know the truth. Okay, so anyway, But I remember she and I were sitting there, and I don't know how I remember this, but it was this movie theater that I still go to today. We still go to, but it looks completely different inside because they have like the lounge sheets and stuff like that. And they don't really have these in movie theaters anymore, but do you remember when they would have like the side seats? They'd have like 2 aisles going down front, and there would be the side seats, and they'd have like just 2 seats. So she and I were sitting just in these 2 seats, and people were so mad because there were all these, or there was no room to sit, and there were like, it was all these people, right? Well, they were trying to like pack it into this movie theater or something, because the movie didn't start for like, it was like a half an hour later than it was supposed to start. And I remember when the lights went down, somebody in the back shouted, "About time, some of us got school tomorrow." And I mean, everybody started dying laughing. It was hilarious. But anyway, he and I went and saw all those movies back in the day. So I saw them out. I remember, I've had this bar moment with both of my exes. So I saw him out, and he was really the one that wanted out of the relationship. I mean, I did too, but he was the one that initiated it, and which I didn't fight. I've never, you know, it is what it is. And so, I mean, I knew it was over too, and we parted ways civilly. Somebody asked me this the other day, and I got a message, or I can't remember what it was, and somebody was asking me, like, I don't remember what it was, but somebody said that they broke up with their ex, like they had broken up, but they couldn't financially afford to move out yet, and they didn't know what to do, and blah, 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 whatever. Okay, so when he and I broke up, we were living in an apartment together, and he did not have money to move out, and he was like, "Can you give me 2 months?" We lived in a 1-bedroom apartment, okay? And I said, okay, and I remember it was like a week or 2, and he was still sleeping in the bed, like right next to me. And I remember I called my friend, the friend that I've talked about on here before, that he and I went on a date when I was like 19 or 20, and then we've been like really good friends ever since. He was at my wedding and stuff. And I remember, and he's like, you know, I talk a lot about having friends that tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Like, I am so blessed to have had several friends like that in my life. And he was one of them. And I remember we were talking, I mean, we were talking every day back then. But I said, I don't know what to do. Like, you know, like, I'm so uncomfortable with this whole situation. And I know he's talking, because he was talking to other guys, like, immediately. And I say he's talking to other guys, but, like, I still, you know, think I have feelings. And I was so confused, right? And he goes, "You need to get him out of that apartment." And I go, "He has no money." And he goes, "So he's just going to come back and sleep on the couch every night for 2 months?" And I go, "He's sleeping in the bed next to me." And he goes, "What?" And I go, I'm not going to make him sleep on the couch. And he goes, "Why not?" He goes, "He needs to go. He has a family. He has friends. He can leave and go stay with somebody else." He was like, this is what he wanted. But I just couldn't kick him out. I felt too bad, and, you know, and so he slept on the couch for like, I told him like the next day, I was like, "You need to sleep on the couch." I think I even said, I blamed it on my friend and was like, you know, he said that you need to sleep on the couch. And he's like, "Yeah, he's probably right." So he slept on the couch the rest of the time. And I remember when he carried his stuff out, it was just real sad. And I've done okay alone, though. Those like in between periods, like I've done okay, like alone, you know, like, I don't know. And then, but I saw him out, like, so he got another boyfriend. Well, he told me he didn't want to be in a relationship. That was like one of the things, was that he didn't want to be in a relationship. He's like, "I don't want to be tied down. I want to go to these parties and blah, 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 whatever." And I'm like, okay. I said, I'm not standing in your way. You go do what you want to do with your life. I don't want to be the person that stands in your way. And I also knew, like, I hate this term. I heard somebody say this term a couple years ago, and I thought it was so phony, but it's appropriate sometimes. But I also knew he wasn't, like, my forever person. Does that make sense? Like, I mean, I knew we weren't going to be together forever. There was a period of time in our relationship that I thought we would be, you know, but, like, at that, like, towards the end, I knew that we weren't going to be. So, but what was weird was that 2.5 years before, I knew that it was done, and yet I was the one fighting for the relationship at the end. Like, it makes no sense to me when I look back on it, but... So anyway, it was like... I don't know, he got a boyfriend real quick. Like, real quick. And, they would go out, and I would see them out, but specifically I would see him on a Sunday night, because the Sunday night was like whenever everybody went out. And I remember he came up to me, and he was like, I miss you. And I was like, okay. I was done, like, when he walked out the door, you know? With my ex, my last ex, it was different. Like, I really missed him a lot. And, I mean, we were so close and such good friends that I just really didn't know who I was without him. You know, I always say this, it's weird. It's like, you know when you break up with somebody, and it's like 5 minutes before you break up with them, you guys are like the closest two people in the entire world. Like, even if you're fighting and arguing, like, you know everything about them and they know everything about you, but like the second you break up, they're out of your life. Like, you don't know them anymore, and they don't know you. It's the weirdest thing, right? Well, with my ex, I still missed him a lot, like, when we broke up. In fact, it was like 2 months into the breakup, and I called him. I had this friend of mine, and that I was like, this woman that I was friends with at the time, and she knew that, like, her hairstylist and his boyfriend had broken up, and they had been together for like 5 or 6 years, and they broke up, and then they were apart for like a year or two or something. 2 years, I think, and then they got back together, and they had been together for like 10 years. And I kind of thought that would be us, like, you know, that we would get back together and whatever. But I also knew how dysfunctional the relationship was, and that we weren't in love with each other anymore. And I remember, like, I would call him, like, and be like, please just come over, let's talk, and whatever. And at about 2 months, I called him, and he finally took my call, and he said, stop calling me. And I said, I know, but I just want to talk. Like, don't you think we can talk things out, come over, whatever? He goes, you wanted out of this relationship, now let me move on. He goes, let me get over you. And I was like, okay. Because the months before, well, the 2 years, 3 years before were just really bad. And it was bad. And it wasn't his fault, and it wasn't my fault. It just was bad. And, I mean, we had good times in there, but it just, you know. So, when we broke up, I remember the date and everything. It's so strange, because it was the day after his Christmas party. And I came in from, like, having worked all day, and he just looked at me. He had, like, the remote in his hand. He was like, this is either gonna work or it's not, just you need to let me know. And, like, my bag just, like, fell off my shoulder, and I was like, I think we're done, I think it's over. And I really didn't think he was gonna ask me that day. Like, I had really thought, like, we had always loved Christmas together. We were, like, huge Christmas, you know, freaks. And I thought we had, you know, I had, like, this cabin booked in Gatlinburg, because we were gonna go down there with my mom and a friend, and I thought if we could just get through Christmas, like, maybe that will save us, you know? If you've ever been there in a relationship, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's like, I just thought, like, maybe Christmas will save us, you know? I don't know. So, I was at the end. So, I called him, and he said that to me, and then I didn't call him anymore. And then, we talked, like, 2 months after that? 3 months after that? Oh, no. So, okay, we broke up in December, so that would have been January, February when we had that conversation. And then, when my mom was in the hospital, was probably the next time that I talked to, it would have been the next time I talked to him. And then the next time we saw each other face to face, I called him, and I said, you need to come up and say goodbye to my mom. And he said, no, I don't want to do that. He got real weird on the phone. He was like, and he and my mom were really close. And he said, I don't want to do that. And I said, you need to come up and say goodbye to my mom. I said, she loved you. She really cared a lot about you. You need to do this. And he said, I can't do that. He was like, I can't say goodbye to your mom, you know? And I said, please do this for her. I said, I know she's, you know, I don't know what she knows, but please do this. And he said, okay, but I'm not coming if your dad or your aunt and uncle are there, you know, Caroline or anybody. So I went in and I said that they all needed to leave for an hour, and he met me up there. And I remember he walked in the room and he was like, she just looks so bad. And he started crying like immediately. So I remember we went outside and we sat outside, smoked a cigarette and talked. And he said, you know, I knew it was over too, Peter. He said, if you hadn't said something and ended it, I would have, probably within a month or two. And, you know, we had a really nice talk, and we had some closure, and it was just, it was fine, you know. But, so my first boyfriend, 3 to 4 months after we broke up, this story I keep on trying to tell that I don't tell, he came up to me one night, this Utopia thing, and he was there with his boyfriend, and his boyfriend was like on his heels, and I was with like my friend, the one that moved to Denver, and his boyfriend's like, they're like fighting about something, and I said, and like he came up to me and was talking to me, and his boyfriend was like fighting behind him, like trying to fight, and he was like, and his boyfriend was really friendly to me too. They lasted about, I don't know, 3 months. I can't even remember what his boyfriend's name was. I do remember though that he like did people's taxes, and he offered to do my taxes. I was like, no, I'm good, dude. Like, I'm totally fine. Okay, I don't need you knowing my personal information, but whatever. So anyway, I don't know how I remember that. So anyway, they're like fighting, and my ex wasn't living with him. He was living with this other guy, like in a house, and there was like people coming in and out all the time, and they were always having like parties and stuff. And he looked at me and he said, he like said something to his boyfriend. He was like, can you just give me 5 minutes or something? He just like stood back there, and he looked at me and he goes, I miss you. And I was like, okay. And he was like, and I miss everything that you like provided for me that I didn't even know that you provided for me. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, well, you gave me like a home, like you made a home for me, you know, like the bed was always made nice. You were always like, you know, folding the towels and making sure that the house looked nice and smelled nice. And we had candles, and, you know, he's like, you were always wanting to do family dinners and go to movies. And he's like, I miss that. I miss that stability. And I was like, okay. And then my ex and I, he came up to me in a bar one time, and it was not so friendly, and he had been drinking a little bit, and he had some choice words for me, and I just was like, if you want to talk to me, that's fine, but no, I don't talk to people and have serious conversations with them when they've been drinking. Not people that want to have conversations with me about my life. That's not fair to me, and it's not fair to them. And I was like, if you want to talk to me about this, like, when you haven't been drinking. I also, like, he didn't drink the whole time that we were together, so I wasn't used to him drinking. It was really weird for me. So whenever I would see him out and he had been drinking a little bit, I just didn't. I didn't. I was like, I don't know you. Like, this is weird to me. I don't like it. But he's a good guy. I mean, I've been really blessed to have dated just some wonderful people and been with wonderful people in my life, you know. What's really weird about it is that my ex was a total homebody. My first boyfriend and I, we like to travel a lot, okay? And I like to be a homebody. And then my second boyfriend, he was a complete homebody, and we traveled. But he didn't like to go and do like stuff, you know, like cultural stuff and whatever, and didn't really like to go to movies. And then Alex likes to do all of it, and has also pushed me to be more social. So, you know, it's interesting that like, now I'm in a position where I have like the best of all of it, you know? And Alex is fantastic with, I mean, he gets along with my exes. We don't ever see them. Well, we see his ex sometimes, which is interesting because he works somewhere that we go. And I'm always like, Alex, talk to him, because he's real nice to me. I mean, it's been so long. Alex and I have been together for, you know, over 11 years now, but I mean, there's no animosity or anything there. But I did have to call and talk to my ex, and it was weird because when I texted him, like, I realized I hadn't talked to him. It had been like 2 or 3 years. It was weird. But when my friend Scotty died, I had to call him because he's how I met Scotty. And so I had to let him know, and because he wasn't answering anybody else's calls, I guess. And so I asked Alex. I just think that's respectful, you know. I said, do you care if I contact him? And he was like, no, you do what you need to do, you know. So yeah, relationships are weird, aren't they? Like, old relationships. I think it's weird that, like, at the time, I don't know, maybe, you know, like, at the time it seemed so, like, severe and whatever. I think if I saw my ex today, well, my first ex, I mean, I was thinking about this the other day, like, Alex and I, somehow his name came up, and, we were somewhere, and somebody said, how do you know him? And I go, I dated him for almost 5 years, we lived together. He goes, really? And I go, yeah, because, like, they knew him like 10 years after we had dated or whatever. And I said to Alex, I go, do you know what is so weird? I mean, okay, so we broke up so the last year that we were together was when I was diagnosed with epilepsy. Like, that is strange. I mean, I feel like I've had epilepsy my whole life, so that's so weird that it's been that long. But so if we were together 4.5 years, we got together when I was 23 and a half. I was gonna be what, 28? Yeah, that was when it was that I got diagnosed. I can never really remember. I need to have my neurologist look that up when I go in there next. But so, I mean, it's been 20 years, you guys, since I was with him. Like, it's been forever. I've, like, literally, like, I remember stories, but, like, I kind of vaguely, but, like, I don't have, like, any kind of emotional attachment whatsoever. And even with my other ex, like, it's been 12 years since he and I broke up, and it's, like, that's a lifetime, you know? I mean, that's, like, forever. I mean, it really is, you know? It's crazy. I don't know. I don't really know what's going on with his life today. And, you know, and I'm not the person that needs to know that stuff. Like, I know people are really good friends with their exes and stuff, and I think that's great. I think when you have kids, it's a different story, you know? Like, I wish my parents had gotten along. I think it would have made things so different for me. And I think it's fantastic when parents, like, you know, split up and they do get along for the kids. I think, because when parents don't, I think the kids are the ones that suffer. I have friends of mine that hate their exes. They don't ever want to talk to them or whatever. And I'm like, you know, could you just be maybe a little civil? Well, you don't know what they did. I'm like, I understand that. Like, I feel for you for the situation. And I'm talking about just breakups. I'm not talking about abusive situations. But I'm like, but you know, it's like really like your children that are the ones that suffer. I have a friend of mine. I don't really talk to her anymore. I haven't talked to her in years, but she was going through this divorce, and it just was a mess, and she hated her ex, and then he got a girlfriend, and she would, like, say stuff to her kids, and I'm like, she was like, well, you know, like, they need to know the truth, and I'm like, no, they really don't, like, need to know what happened between the two. I mean, they maybe down the road, but not, like, at that age. And I'm like, you don't want them to hate their dad. And she's like, yeah, I do. Like, he's a bad person. And he really wasn't. I mean, it was, like, really nothing bad that he had done. And I'm like, no, you really don't want your kids to hate their dad. Trust me. I mean, if they end up making that decision on their own because of something that happens, that's one thing. But to then, you know, look back and be like, yeah, mom was the one that made us think these things. Like, you don't want that. Plus, why wouldn't you want your kids to have a good relationship with their father, like, or mother, you know? Like, I don't understand that. And, you know, and the one thing I am really blessed for is, even though that my parents never got along, and I never for 1 second was confused about that, like, I mean, even from a young age, I knew that my parents did not really like each other. They were totally civil towards each other, and, I mean, I can only remember, like, 1 or 2 occasions that they screamed at each other. And one, I did say something. I was older when this happened. I think I might have been in my 20s, and I said to my mother, do you know what it's like to be a product of so much anger? Like, I was done. And, but you know, like, my mother and my father never spoke ill of each other. Like, they never did. Like, if I ever said anything about my dad, my mother would say, don't you dare speak about your father that way. Like, he works very hard to take care of you, and, you know, he is a wonderful father. He always has been, and you need to respect him. And my dad was the same way with my mom. Like, if I ever spoke out of line about my mother, oh my God, my dad would have let me have it. And I just feel really blessed for that, you know, that I had parents that could put their differences aside. They co-parented like nobody's business. I mean, to the point of where it pissed me off. Like, if I was in trouble at one house, I was definitely in trouble at the other, you know? And there were several occasions that my mom picked up the phone and called my dad and said, come pick him up and you deal with him, because I don't want to deal with him right now. And he would, no questions asked. And I would go off and he would say, don't speak about your mother that way. I'm not going to have it. You're not going to talk about your mom that way. She raised you. She brought you in this life. You have one of the best mothers out there. He just wouldn't tolerate it, you know? Now, he would listen to me if I was upset about like her drinking and stuff like that. And, you know, he would always ask me and make sure that I was, you know, things were going okay and whatever. I mean, he was like, my dad was so involved. My dad, like, rearranged board meetings and all kinds of stuff to be active in my life. I mean, he was at literally everything that I ever did growing up. My dad was, and my mom was too. I think that's why my mom beat herself up so much about the drinking as a parent, because she prided herself so much on being a good parent. And the one thing that kept her from being the parent that she really wanted to be was the drinking. And I think this is why it's important for me, like, in talking to people, like, to never give up hope. Somebody just messaged me this week and said something about their dad. You guys, just because I don't always respond, because sometimes I just read, doesn't, like, I don't want to just respond with, like, one sentence, like, oh, thanks, or whatever, you know, like, just because I don't respond doesn't mean that I haven't read it. But somebody messaged me this week about, thank you for sharing my stories about my mom, because it gives them hope. Or it gave them hope, and their dad has been sober for like a couple months or a year or something like that. You know, the thing is like, it's important, I think, for people to know that my mom didn't get sober until she was 51. I had given up hope. I never thought that my mom would get sober, you know? Not only to get sober, but then to be like somebody that people looked up to and respected in recovery, you know, in a way that I didn't even know, because we kept our recovery program so separate, you know, but like, and like our relationship was so fixed. And I mean, I just never thought that would be the case, you know? And I don't look back on my life. Like, yeah, I look back on my childhood and think about the things that happened with her being drunk, but that is not the memories that are at the forefront of my memories with my mother. They just aren't. It's sitting around drinking coffee, laughing, you know, or her cutting, you know, plates of cheese for the Oscars, or, you know, us, you know, laying there late at night and just talking, or taking walks, you know, and just all kinds of stuff. It's talking, you know, about recovery. It's not about those moments that I had that just, I look back on in my childhood. Those are there, but they're kind of canceled out, or when I think about them, the next thought, it's like, you know, we say in recovery, like, first thought bad, second thought good, and it's like, which I don't know if I necessarily agree with that 100%, but, you know, like, I think about that sometimes, because it's like, if I'm thinking about something that happened in my childhood with my mom, which was usually just fear-based, I just never really knew, like, what mom I was going to walk into the door with, you know? Like, was it going to be drunk mom, or was it going to be sad mom? Sad mom was almost sometimes harder for me to deal with than the drunk mom. Sad mom, which I now know in retrospect was depressed mom, which is why I really, really believe in, you know, appropriately being diagnosed for mental health reasons, because my mother, I do believe, you know, suffered from severe depression and it never was dealt with. And I couldn't help that, you know, like, and I didn't know as a child how to help that. And then I think she self-medicated by drinking. And I think she did the best that she could. You know, I don't fault my mother, but I'm also not a bullshit artist about it. Like, you know, I look at it realistically at who she was, and that she had a severe drinking problem, and she was an alcoholic, and I think she self-medicated. And I think it was a lot of fear. And I think that especially when she was alone, when I wasn't there, you know, is when the drinking was really out of control. And because that's when things would happen, you know, like my mom like fell down a flight of stairs one time. She'd been drinking all day at a Super Bowl party, and she fell down a flight of stairs. These situations like this always occurred when I wasn't there. Now, a lot happened when I was there too, but she would really try to hold off from drinking as late as she could. The times that I remember her just being wasted drunk when I was at the house are when her friend would come over, and they would drink in the afternoon, and then like her friend would leave because her friend was married, and she would take the kids and go home after they'd been, you know, dancing in the library to Fleetwood Mac or Thelma Houston. And then my mom would be there, and she'd just be intoxicated, and she'd be trying to make dinner. And I can remember her just like, you know, she would go upstairs and put her nightgown on at 6 o'clock of those days. And then she would come down, and she'd be like trying to make me something for dinner. And I can just remember sitting there at the kitchen table looking at her and just knowing like mom's not okay. But I knew what that was from an early, you know, age, that what mom not being okay was. I also you know, like it wasn't just my mom, it was the whole culture that she lived in, that like her friends drank like that, you know. My aunt was a heavy drinker, you know. It was like I was surrounded by it, you know. So it wasn't just my mom. Like I saw it like a lot. Like I think often, like when I tell these stories on here, you know, it's like, oh, I had this childhood and then it was my mom. That wasn't the case. I was saturated. I was saturated with it. With this heavy drinking, cocktail hour mentality, you know, and Caroline was too. So, you know, the difference is Caroline had her dad, and her dad didn't drink like that. And so Caroline was kind of guarded and protected from all of it. I wasn't, you know, like it was then at the end of the day, it was me and my mom. And so if she drank that way, then it was, you know, whatever. She did her best, you know. I don't fault her for that today. I'm not angry about it today. It makes me sad because I think my mom beat herself up with guilt and shame about not being the mother that she could have been, you know? That was what it was. Somebody thanked me for recently talking about my mom in vlogs and her alcoholism, which I think is interesting because, like, I feel like I always talk about my mom's alcoholism, and I thought people got bored of it, you know? But thank you for saying that. I think it's hard. You know, one of the things I say to my friends that are in early sobriety when they're really struggling, that are parents, your child never has to see you drink or drug again, you know? Like, that is powerful. That from this moment on, your child never has to see you drink again. You know, when I think back on, you know, June 2nd of 1995, like, that was my mom's sobriety day. I never knew that would be it. You know what I mean? Like, I can remember because my cousin's wedding was like 2 weeks later, and she and I went together, and we had a great time, and we danced, and we had fun, and all this kind of stuff. And I remember my mom and I talking about it afterwards, and she was like, that was so much fun, like, you know, going to a wedding sober, like, you know, and we were able to really be there, and, you know, all this kind of stuff. And I can remember thinking to myself, this isn't gonna last. Like, this isn't, you know, because at that point I was 6 months sober, because I gotten sober the December before, in 1994. And I was like, this isn't gonna last. Well, it just isn't, you know? And then it did. But I didn't know that at the time.
It's a weird world, you know? It's like the Big Brother thing, expect the unexpected, you know? It's like, I've had some really great I've had some really great things in my life that I never expected to happen. And that would definitely be one of them, would be my mom's sobriety. That was something that, like, I never even knew was a possibility. You know, like Tanya's son has never known her to drink because he was so little when she got sober, you know? And I think that's so cool. That, you know, he had an entire childhood growing up into an adulthood, you know, with never seeing that. And I think that's so cool, you know? I also think that even though I went through hell with growing up and this isolated fear of my mom and being scared, I was always scared for her. It wasn't like I was scared. I was never scared of her. Like, I was never scared of what she would do to me, because she just wasn't that. She wasn't, I mean, I'm not going to say she never acted violently, but she never acted violently towards me. She would break stuff, you know, or like, I remember one time she was in the bathroom and she was crying and she gotten off the phone with my dad or something. And we had like these porcelain toilet seats, and she like took it, she was just like slamming it, and it was like breaking, and I just didn't understand. Like, I think I was too young that I didn't understand, you know? And you know, somebody commented on my video one time and they said, your mother would hate for you to speak about her this way. My mother would want me to speak about her this way. My mother would want this to be shared so that other people don't have to go through the same thing that we did. And I think that's the one thing that you don't really understand until you're in sobriety. She wasn't ashamed of it when she got older, you know, when she got sober and she had had some time. She realized it was part of her story. It was part of who she was. And, you know, she wasn't that person when she passed. And she knew that. And we had said everything that we had, you know, wanted to say between each other. And I can't remember. The actual comment was something like... I remember reading it and I thought, are you kidding me? I think I probably knew my mother a little bit better than you did. Something about, it's so sad to me that you talk about your mother this way, or you shouldn't talk about your mother this way. God rest her soul. My mother would have commented back to that comment. It was at the end. She would have said, listen here, don't talk about my son that way. That's what she would have said. My mother was so protective of me. But no, and you know, whatever, like, that comment's whatever, but, you know, that's why I share my story, you know, is because I want people to have hope. I want people to realize, you know, you too could, you know, this could be you someday. You could be sober. You know, it could be your kids that are saying how proud of you that they are. I mean, I was so proud of my mom. And I think the thing that I really, like, struggled with the first couple years ended up being one of the things I loved the most about my mom's sobriety was, you know, that when she got sober, she didn't get sober for me. She just didn't. She had tried many times to get sober for me. To get sober so that her son wouldn't see her like that. And she told me that later, you know. And she would say that to me, you know. She would say, like, I just can't stop drinking. I wish I could stop drinking for you, blah, 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 whatever, you know. But my uncle had had a heart attack, and that was why she stopped drinking. Because she was like, if it like shocked her system, and she was like, if I live another week, another month, another year, another 10 years or 20 years, like, I want to have a quality life, and I don't have a quality life right now drinking the way that I'm drinking. The other thing that happened around the same time was that she had a friend of hers. I think her friend was being a little tricky, sneaky, but her friend had been taking her to Al-Anon meetings because of me, supposedly, I think. And my mom was in this meeting, and, you know, she was like, I don't, if I live another week, another month, another year, another 10 years or 20 years, like, I want to have a quality life, and I don't have a quality life right now drinking the way that I'm drinking. The other thing that happened around the same time was that she had a friend of hers. I think her friend was being a little tricky, sneaky, but her friend had been taking her to Al-Anon meetings because of me, supposedly, I think. And my mom was in this meeting, and she had this, it wasn't her first Al-Anon meeting. She had been to several of them, but she was listening to somebody's lead or story, and she was like, oh my God, this is me. Like, I'm in the wrong meeting. Like, I need to be, you know, and she knew that. When my mom passed away, I found that she had many start over tokens. Like, she had started, like, she had tried many times before she actually got sober to get sober. I found them all, you know. I've actually donated a lot of my mom's coins back when women have special birthdays, because I think that she would like that, you know. I think she would want her legacy to carry on in recovery. My mom was very proud of her recovery because I think she never thought she would get sober. I think she tried so hard, you know. It's like, I can remember, especially when I moved out, I don't know why I remember it then, but my mom always kept a calendar, you know, like those calendars you get, like the cheap calendars that come in the mail, like calendar, you know what I'm talking about? And like, she would keep it, like, she had this desk in her kitchen, and she would keep it, and then she would write, like, this is at the old house before she moved into the condo. It's like this little desk area that she had with a chair in the kitchen, you know, like drawers and stuff. I remember she used to keep a carton of cigarettes in this towel drawer that was like 2 over. It was like, if this is a desk, it was like drawer. And she kept her carton of cigarettes in there because I used to steal them from her. Before I started smoking, I was bad. I started smoking Vantage Ultralights. That's what my mom smoked with the hole. Do you guys remember that? I used to steal her cigarettes from her carton, and she never knew. Like, even when I told her later, she never knew. She was like, oh my God. And my mother was such a penny pincher. I don't know how she never knew that I was stealing packs of cigarettes from her. But anyway, yeah, Vantage Ultralights. Because my friends would laugh if that's what I smoked. But, we had like a yellow phone in the kitchen that was in the wall, I remember too. And, but she would keep this calendar there, you know, and she would write on it. Like, and I remember I found it one time, and it was like, she had like counted the days, and it was like 9 days or something. And it was like 9 days without a drink. Like, she was counting like 1, 2, 3. It was like, you know, 4. It was like 9 days and without a drink. And then later she told me that too, that she had, you know, done that for years, that she was trying to, you know, like, stop drinking, and she couldn't do it. And I think that's why she so believed, you know, in the spiritual axiom of recovery, because, you know, for her, when it became this, you know, turning, you know, her life and her will over to her higher power, which, you know, she believed it was God. For her, I think that's when it started really changing. And my mother, let me just tell you something right now, if she was sitting in this car, there's this idea that once we've been sober for a while, that the desire to drink or drug has been lifted from us. I don't know that even at 24 and a half years I can say that today, that there's not ever a time that I don't think about having a drink. My mother truly believed that the desire had been lifted from her, that she asked God to take it, and he did. She still went to meetings till the day she died. She went to a lot. My mother went to like 6 out of 7 days of the week. But she truly believed, because there's like this saying that we will recoil from it like a hot flame on the stove. And my mother, like recoil from it like a hot flame. My mother truly believed that it had been lifted from her, like that the addiction had been lifted from her. She truly, truly believed that. And that if you do the work, and you work the steps of recovery, and you surrender to a higher power, and you make amends, and all that kind of stuff, and you do a searching and fearless moral inventory, and then you work on your character defects, and, you know, you do what you're supposed to do, that it's promised to us. She really believed that. And I believe it too, but I've never had that feeling. There was a period where I did, and then Tanya and I one time were talking about it, and she's like, I don't know about you. She's like, but sometimes when I'm on the beach, a Corona sounds good. And I was like, you know, you're kind of right. Like, I do think that way. She's like, I can't say that the desire has been lifted from me, because I still think that way, you know? Somebody asked me in the comment sections, I can't remember who it was, doesn't matter, but somebody was asking about, like, do I still have like daily cravings, or no, I don't think about it that way. Like, that's not how I think about it, you know? And I'm extremely active in working a 12-step program, and But, in fact, I'm waiting for a call from a sober friend who hasn't called me, which worries me a little bit. But, and I think, you know, like for me, it's when I came back into the rooms and then I heard that person say, you know, it's like, it's hard to fall off the wagon when you're sitting in the middle of it. Like that so resonates with me. And I believe that if you surround yourself, you know, with sobriety, you know, it's hard to fall back into something. So I really, truly believe that. But and that for me, you know, I had a friend of mine the other day that just got, he just had his birthday, 38 years. Like, that's crazy. He goes to 4 to 5 meetings a week. You know, he enjoys it. It's social for him as well. Plus, it's not about what we're getting, it's about what we're giving back. And I think that's sometimes the thing that people miss, that you don't understand if you're not in it. It's like, I'm not always there for me. I'm there for the newcomer that's walking through the door. Maybe something, they need to hear something. Maybe they need a hand to shake, you know. Maybe they need, you know, a smiling face. It's all about all of that, right? Like, if we got sober and got to a certain point and then stopped coming because we didn't need it anymore, who would be there when the newcomer came through the door? But the friends of mine that have the lives that to me are unbelievable, and they have good relationships and, you know, strong marriages, and they're happy and peaceful and serene, are the ones that continue to go to meetings. So, no, I don't have daily cravings. I can't even really remember, honest to God, the last time that I had a true craving, like where I was like, oh my God, I want to use so bad. Like, I honest to God can't think of a time that happened in the last 15 plus years. I really can't even think of a time the last time that it happened. You know, I really thought, like, when you get sober, you think it's like big moments. Like, okay, if I get married. Well, when I got married, I didn't think about it. And we did discuss alcohol. Like, it was a huge issue at our wedding because I said, I'm not paying for alcohol. You know, I'll pay for dinner. Like, we talked about what we were going to pay for and what we weren't. I said, we'll pay for dinner, we'll pay for everything else, but I'm not paying for alcohol. I talked about that on here recently. And, because my aunt was like, you need to have wine and, like, beer, like an open wine and beer bar. I go, no, I'm sober. I'm not doing, no. Like, if they want to buy drinks, they can buy, I'm not, and I don't think that's cheap of me. I'm just not going to do it. You know, we'll buy soda and we'll buy all that. You know, they can have those kind of things free, but other than that, I'm not doing it. It's a statement for me that I'm making, you know. The wedding, I didn't have any issues with at all. I thought when one of my parents died, I wouldn't be able to do it. I didn't even think about it. I did not even think about it when my mom was sick or in the hospital. Well, first of all, because she was surrounded by people that were sober constantly, and so was I. Let me just tell you that this coffee is blueberry crumble, and it is so fantastic, but it is cold. I would really wish it was warm. But I didn't even think about it, you know? I didn't even think about drinking through any of that. But for the grace of God, I don't know how, you know, I didn't think about it during that time. But I didn't. And I also know that, you know, like, because my mom said that to me in the last conversation that we ever had. Well, not the last conversation, but one of the last serious conversation when we had the conversation that I've talked about. She said to me, you know, I never want you to drink or use drugs again, right? Okay, the battery died, so I had to pull into this. I don't know what this place is. Here, this mine shaft, or I don't know what it is. Grain, something. Anyway. But I was talking about the last time that I talked to my mom, and, you know, she said to me, you know, I don't ever want you to drink or use drugs again. And, you know, she knew what she was doing when she said that to me, because she knew I would respect that, you know, and that I would hopefully never use again out of, you know, respect for her. But so I haven't really thought about it, you know, like, I can't honestly think of times that I did. Early on, it was hell. The cravings were hell at the beginning, you know. I was talking to a friend of mine today, and I said, you know, people ask me all the time, how did you get through the early days of the cravings and the mental obsession in your head, you know? Because the mental obsession, I think, is a huge part of it. And I honest to God, all I know is that I did what I was told. That's all I know. You know, there was a lot that I didn't do that I was told to do. But when it came to getting through cravings, I had lists of people's, not lists, but I had little pieces of paper. You know, today, when we have a newcomer come in, we all write our name down on it, like a piece of paper, and we like give it to them, or like on the back of a meeting book, you know, or whatever. We didn't do that back in the day. When I got sober, you know, everybody would like write their number on the back of like a little receipt or a checkbook or something, you know. So, I had all these numbers, and I would just call them and call them and call them, and I'd be like, okay, if I can make it till, you know, if it was like 1, and if I can make it till 1:30, then at 1:30, you know, I can drink, and, or I can, you know, call my dealer or whatever. And then I get to 1:30, and, you know, I keep on calling until I got a hold of somebody, and that person would be like, do you need me to come get you? Or, you know, do you need somebody to hang out with right now, or do you just need to talk on the phone? And I had people that kept me entertained. I had, you know, people that came and picked me up and took me places, took me to a meeting. I sat in so many meetings. There was this clubhouse in Indianapolis that's still here. It's a recovery clubhouse. And they had a little restaurant in there and stuff. And I literally would sit in there, I mean to tell you, like all day long. And the guy that like worked in the cafeteria, or not the cafeteria, it was like a little canteen, little coffee shop. He knew I didn't have hardly any money, because I wasn't working and my dad wasn't giving me any cash. That was just how it was. My dad was like, no cash. And my dad bought food and put it in my refrigerator for me, and he'd buy me a carton of cigarettes a week, and he was like, but I'm not giving you cash. And he's like, and you're lucky I'm doing that, because I shouldn't even be doing the rest of it. And so this guy that worked in the canteen was so nice, would make me little cheeseburgers and stuff, and I don't know, I just had like such gratitude for like getting in my bed at night. I would take a shower every night, you know, and I would put my pajamas on, and I remember I used to always wear these like flannel red and white pajamas. They were like Christmas pajamas, and then I would wear like a white just like Hanes t-shirt. I was thin back then. I lost a lot of weight after I got out of treatment. And just like this white t-shirt, and then I would wear like those moccasins, and that's like what I wore around my apartment, like whenever I was at home. I remember I could see myself in my head. I would like take a shower, and then I would like put my pajamas on, and then I would just like sit there and watch some TV. And I had like, my dad had bought me all these recovery movies. I put my dad through hell, you know, like, just what a wonderful man, you know. I remember he bought me all these recovery movies on, you know, VCR tapes, and so I would watch those, or, you know, and I would make a pot of coffee, or, you know, have a glass of orange juice or something, and make a turkey sandwich before I went to bed, you know, and I would like go in there and I would lay down and turn on my fan and start another day, and it was homey, it was safe, it was so safe, you know, and it was nice. And I think that's today why I still feel the same way about nesting. Like, I think it really goes back to that time period of my life where, like, you know, when I was growing up, I talked about this the other day, that I think like home was a safe place for me, like from school, but it didn't always feel safe because of my mom's drinking. I don't even know how to explain it, but to this day, like, I think I'm such a nester because of liking to have, like, you know, like a nice bed made or whatever, you know, because I don't know, it goes back to that. I remember those days, you know, of, I can remember my sponsor coming. He would just show up. This was my second sponsor. He was fantastic. He died of a heroin overdose, but he was a really great guy. And he would come into my apartment. He'd be like, I'm doing a check. And I'm like, you're doing what? I remember the first time he did it. And after that, I was like, okay. And he would come in, and I had to get up, and I had to make my bed. I had to keep the kitchen clean. I had to keep the bathroom clean. My laundry had to be done. I had to, like, take a shower every day. And I had to, like, you know, look nice. I couldn't just, like, throw on a hat like I do now. I'd, like, do my hair, look nice every day, and be presentable. You know, it was all about, what he was really doing was building my character from the outside in. and learning for me to love myself, to take care of myself and my space enough, you know? I know that now. I didn't know that then. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand why he was so invested in me making my bed and why it even mattered, you know? And he was like, you know, this is your space that you should be proud of. And, you know, and I see that a lot with like halfway houses do that kind of stuff too, you know? And I think it's like really, really, you know, it's important to this day, you know, like for me to feel that way. These people are totally checking me out to the right over here. They're like looking at me like, what are they, who is he talking to? Why is he talking to a camera? It's kind of embarrassing. I don't know what they're doing, but can you hear them? They're like screaming and shouting at me. It's like 3 kids. But it's important to me to this day, you know, to like take care of my space. I took care of it much better back then than I do today, you know. But it was funny because like, okay, so when I did the Jessica Kent, that's her last name, isn't it? Remember when I did the collab with her? So it was a sponsored video, and I got sent this blueberry crumble candle. Blueberry crumble. I don't know what it was. Blueberry something candle. And blueberry muffin or something. And so I keep it like up in this thing, but today I like took down, I had the apple ones yesterday. I had like apple waxes melting, and I had, you know, apple candle on the warmer. A candle warmer, if you guys have never gotten one, are fantastic. And so I had that up there, and I took it, I replaced it, and I put the blueberry one on when Alex and I were outside on the patio. And so when I came back in, I think I must have done it because the coffee was making me think that or something, I don't know. But anyway, when I came back in, like the whole house, like I cleaned up a little bit today, and the whole house smelled like that blueberry muffin smell, and because that candle warmer is so strong, and the whole house smelled so good, and it smelled so homey, and it was so clean, you know, and the pups were running around, and the bed was so cozy, and kind of like we had made it this morning a little bit, and I mean, not fully, but like we made it nice, you know, and it just was like, and I love that, like, you know, just even just, you know, putting my feet on the grass in the yard, and I don't know, and that's where for me, it's like, life is so simple, and I just like the simplicity of all of that, you know, makes me happy. And I think it also grounds me and brings me back to what's really important and what I need and what I don't need. Because I don't need a lot, you know, I just don't. Well, you guys, listen, I think I've gone on a lot longer than I was going to. Didn't I say it was going to be short tonight, and it's been over an hour? I have said that every night for like the last 4 nights, and it keeps on being about the same amount of time. So I'm going to get off here now. And I hope you guys are having an amazing Sunday. It's my favorite day of the week. I love Sundays. They're just like days to relax and hang out with your loved ones and get prepared for the week ahead. I don't know why, but I just love Sundays. So anyway, I hope you guys are having an amazing Sunday, unless you have other plans. But like I always say, don't have other plans. Make the most of it. Enjoy it. Do something fun. You know, start some new show, or go see a movie, or I don't know, get carry out or something. And do something fun. Make the most of it today. You're exchanging a day of your life for it. And if nobody else has told you this today, I love you. Make sure that you look at yourself in the mirror every single day and tell yourself good things about yourself, that you say positive affirmations to yourself, and that you tell yourself, I love you, every single day. You are valuable. And don't forget the positive affirmations. I think those are important. And most importantly, make sure that you let somebody else know. And the reason I say most importantly is because there are people out there that don't have anybody that says it to them, you know? So make sure that you let somebody else know in your life today how important they are to you. Even if it's just calling them up and saying, hey, I was thinking about you, I hadn't heard from you in a while. And letting them know that. And yeah, that's it. So I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye. Love you.